Hi, everyone. Mitch Holthus here, voice of the Chiefs. A reminder that our Fantasy Draft podcast is presented by Bud Light, the official beer of the Chiefs Kingdom. Now, it's time for your draft day drama.
The Kansas City Chiefs are now on the clock.
The Kansas City Chiefs, first round selection.
With the 15th selection.
With the 10th pick.
With the 63rd pick.
The Kansas City Chiefs have selected.
And hello, Chiefs Kingdom. As we get ready for the 2021 NFL Draft, we have our own draft. Mitch Holthus with you, voice of the Chiefs, along with Matt McMullen, Chiefs reporter. So here we go. Here's what we're going to do, Matt. We're going to, over 5 episodes, take a look at what Matt and I would think would be the ultimate Chiefs team going back all through history and do our own fantasy draft, if you will, covering 61 years.
Yeah, this will be interesting. I've probably spent way too much time trying to research this stuff over the last 24 to 48 hours. We have our big boards here.
Oh, yeah.
And as we'll explain, we're going to take different position groups per episode and different number of positions. But this should be a lot of fun. I've learned a lot. I've been a lifelong Chiefs fan. I thought I knew a lot about Chiefs history. I've learned a lot more in the last couple days, and I will show it here over the next 5 episodes.
As have I. But to get into the genre of this mood here for our Chiefs fantasy draft, I am representing the epic film of our generation, Draft Day, and Kevin Costner. So I'm Sonny Weaver Jr., if you will. And then I think I got lost in costume a little bit because they put me more looking like Kevin Costner in Hidden Figures. Hidden Figures, by the way, is an awesome movie. Rotten Tomatoes, triple up thumbs. Draft Day, thumbnail. Anyway, though, so just think of me as Sonny Weaver on Draft Day, which, man, that would... You like Draft Day as a movie?
Well, so we've talked about this. I think Draft Day, in terms of being like representative of what the NFL draft is like, is completely off and isn't very good. Like, it's not like Moneyball is for baseball, which I love Moneyball. But Draft Day is the kind of movie that if it's on, you're like, oh, I'll just watch it for a while. Even though it's completely ridiculous and unrealistic, it's still enjoyable. I think we agree on that.
Well, my wife loves a Draft Day. Like, she's a moth to the flame with it. Maybe just Costner. I don't know. But anyway, here we go. So you've brought a coin here. We're going to start this is the first round of 5 in this Chiefs fantasy draft. And we're going to have different categories here. Walk us through the categories, how this is going to work, Matt, because we're not doing everything today. So think about like how cool that Thursday night is and everybody's fired up and everybody knows everything what's going on. And that's that night here. So feel that excitement. And Sonny Weaver Jr. sitting there with the Browns in their that fake war room. So here we go. What do we have and what categories are we in?
Yeah, so we'll break this down. So for this first episode, your team is driven by your head coach and your quarterback, right? So we're going to start this first episode with quarterback, head coach, kicker, and punter. All right. So, and we're going to each draft 2 quarterbacks. We're each going to draft 1 kicker, 1 punter, and 1 head coach. And in the further episodes, we'll have more positions like a defensive tackle, will have 4 each, and so on and so forth. But we're going to
start. So you're saying franchise are also kind of driven by kickers and punters?
Hey, you never know. Yeah, you never know. The Chiefs have had a lot of luck with punters in their history, as I've found with this. Not a lot of punters in Chiefs history because when they find one, they just have one for 15 years and then once repeat. See if Tommy Townsend can do that. But yes, we're going to start with quarterback, kicker, punter, and head coach. The way this is going to work is we'll flip this coin, which is a Super Bowl 54 coin. We'll flip this coin to see who has the first pick. For example, if I have the first pick, I could take Patrick Mahomes, or I could take Dustin Colquitt, or I could take Coach Reed. I can take whoever I want within the realm of this episode. And we'll just go on and see what teams we get, and we'll keep track of it and move forward. So we're going to flip this coin and see who gets the first overall pick.
You could also take Daniel Pope, who was the punter, I think, for like 6 weeks, like in 2007 or 8. You could take him too, right? He's on my board.
That's the beauty of it.
Yeah.
You can take whoever you want, and we'll let the masses criticize us accordingly.
Oh, they'll criticize it. Yep. So we can count on that.
Okay, so this coin. One side, Super Bowl 54 logo. Other side, Super Bowl champions. I'll allow you to call it in the air. I'm going to try not to drop this as I flip it.
Can we run Wasp? I'm going to call tails.
Which tails would you say is the Super Bowl logo?
I don't know.
The 54 logo?
Yeah.
Let's say it's the Super Bowl champions
now we're
logo.
Doing it. Okay.
All right, it is LIV, which means I get the first pick in this draft.
I think I just got hoodwinked in this, but that's okay.
It wasn't rigged.
We make it up later. What was it?
Like a two-face coin?
Yeah, the Steelers. It was Jerome Bettis, I think. Going, wait a minute. What just happened? So, all right, here we go. So you got the first pick?
Yeah, I hit the jackpot, which I'm going to make the most obvious pick in the history of picks in this draft. I think the guy that I'm going to select, if there was a fantasy draft for all players in NFL history, there's a good chance this guy would go number 1. I'm going to pick Patrick Mahomes with the first overall pick in our fantasy draft. And I could go on and on for this entire episode and every other episode about how good Patrick Mahomes is and every single record that he has broken. But you all know that already. He is the best quarterback in football. He's the absolute man. He's more than just a guy that gets a bunch of stats. He's the ultimate leader, ultimate competitor. We've seen it in his time here. We saw it in Super Bowl 54 when he led the team back. We also saw it in Super Bowl 55, which was a bummer for all of us, of course. We wanted to win that game, but we saw his competitiveness until the very end, and we'll have that for the next 10 years, and hopefully more. So Patrick Mahomes is the first pick in this draft. He is on my team, and I am ecstatic.
Yeah, and Twitter was going crazy. They thought you might want to trade out of that pick and get a whole bunch of extra picks, but
No.
You stayed to your board, and I admire the pick, and who wouldn't? I remember the night in April 27th, 2017, when he was chosen in front of several thousand fans. That moment's in my memory forever. All right, so I get the next pick in this draft. So I can pick a quarterback, I can pick a kicker, a punter, or I can pick a head coach, because you said it the best. The winningest teams down through the years in the 100 years of the National Football League is the combination of the quarterback and the head coach. But we have seen the great head coaches without the quarterback be good, but not quite get there. And we have seen the quarterback without the head coach, right? So I'm going to choose what I think, well, we know now. I mean, empirically, he's one of the top 4 head coaches in the history of the National Football League. When you look at the list now, that's rarefied air, because you're talking Landry, Shula, Belichick. But I'm going to choose with my first selection of this episode the greatest head coach, not only in the history of the Chiefs, one of the top 4 greatest head coaches in the history of the National Football League, Big Red. He changed everything. So I'm going with Andy Reid out of BYU as my head coach.
All right, Coach Reid off the board. All right, we'll see. Moving forward here, I have a decision to make. Do I go
Yes, you do.
head coach? But I probably won't, because you're not going to take another head coach. So I'm going to go with a kicker here with my second pick. I'm going to take the Pro Football Hall of Famer Jan Stenerud with my second pick. Jan Stenerud, this is an example of how this whole process has made me kind of have to learn about these things. I know Jan Stenerud is a great player. He's a Pro Football Hall of Famer. But I've learned a lot about Jan Stenerud in the last couple days. So Jan Stenerud, one of only 3 kickers in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. There's a few more like George Blanda that did other things, but he's one of only 3 guys in the Pro Football Hall of Fame that only were a kicker, which is pretty impressive. Also, an interesting note here, he hit a 48-yarder in Super Bowl 4, which is a long field goal, especially for back then.
Keep going. I'm working on a trade.
Okay. That was the longest field goal in Super Bowl history until Super Bowl 28 in like 1994, which is crazy. So Jan Stenerud, when guys were hitting field goals at a clip of like 50%, he was hitting them at like 70%. He changed the game. Jan Stenerud combining with Patrick Mahomes to create an incredible offensive and special teams juggernaut.
Well, now you put me in a tough spot, because I do have my head coach, but you have Patrick Mahomes. Mm-hmm. Let's go back. We just quarterback, head coach. So I'm going to wait on the kicker and the punter, and I'm going to go quarterback here. But now, which quarterback do I take? Because I might surprise you here. Twitter's going to freak out on this one. Now, I love Len Dawson. To work with him, this will be my 28th year as the voice of the Chiefs, and most of that was with Len Dawson, one of my boyhood heroes. But can I take Joe Montana as my quarterback? Is that in the rules?
Of course, if a guy, and you'll see as I'll probably try to bend the rules later, if a guy is under contract at any point with the Chiefs, you can take him.
Oh, okay. So I'm going to go with a 4-time Super Bowl champion here, and I'm going to combine him with Andy Reid, just like he was with Bill Walsh, right? And so Montana had a very Lenny-like completion percentage, 63%, but 273 touchdowns, but the 8 Pro Bowls. But the one thing you can't get over is 16 playoff victories and 4 Super Bowl championships. And there was that 1.5 glorious years in a Chiefs uniform. And you 49er fans can get mad at me if you want. Just go watch Super Bowl 54 and relax. I'm taking Joe Montana with my second pick in episode 1.
Yeah, you cannot go wrong with Joe Montana. When I was trying to make my quarterback board, I almost kind of forgot about him because he was here briefly and it was the end of his career. But yeah, you can't go wrong with Joe Montana. And also, this is our draft, so we create the rules for this. You're not necessarily only getting the Chiefs version. You're getting Joe Montana, the whole package, right? So do I take a head coach to pair with Patrick Mahomes, or do I get his backup quarterback? I think I'm going to go ahead and go backup quarterback here. And you left Lynn Dawson on the board for a good reason, getting Joe Montana, but I'm going to go ahead and take Lenny the Cool to be my backup quarterback. Life is pretty good if Lynn Dawson's my backup. Think about Lynn Dawson. This is another example of how diving into this stuff has been good for me. The guy was so ahead of his time. And if you look at some of his numbers now, they maybe don't compare to what Patrick Mahomes is putting up and all these guys are doing nowadays. But back then, he was kind of like Patrick Mahomes. I mean, he was breaking records left and right. I had this note here. He threw 30 touchdowns in 1964. Only 7 guys that year threw more than 20 touchdowns. He led the NFL in completion percentage 8 times. That's an NFL record. And he did that while still pushing the ball downfield. He averaged 9.42 yards per attempt in 1968. This is an era when most teams really didn't throw the ball a whole lot. They ran the football, and Lynn was just chucking it downfield. 30 games with a passer rating over 100. That's a Chiefs record. Lynn Dawson with Patrick Mahomes also in there could be a pretty incredible quarterback duo. Maybe a few dual quarterback sets. You never know. I'll figure out the playbook later on. But Lynn Dawson as my backup has me feeling pretty good.
You know, Lenny played offense and defense too, so back at Purdue in his days, so you might be able to find a way to be resourceful with him, but way to take my guy off the board. So now I'm dealing with that. So I've got a decision to make. I've got the head coach in Andy Reid. I've got a 4-time Super Bowl champion quarterback in Joe Montana. So where do I go next? To the backup quarterback, or do I go kicker? I'm going to take kicker. Sorry against the punters. We'll get to you in a second. But I'm going kicker here, and I might surprise you with this because I thought about you've taken Stenerud off the board, the Hall of Famer. So I have a decision to make. Do I take Lawrence Tynes, a 2-time Super Bowl champion with the New York Giants, who was good with the Chiefs, but I'm going to go with the recent here. Harrison Butker at 90% of his field goals made. When you look at what he's done in the playoffs, and then the fact that he is so good from long distance. It's what Stenerud did back in his day. But to hit those 2 58-yarders against the Chargers, he won Super Bowl 54, so he's already a Super Bowl champion. I think at the least he'll be on the Ring of Honor, and who knows with Butker, because he also is a weapon for me in special teams. We've seen it. Hey, we need to blast it. It's going to be touchbacks. Just lead the league in touchbacks. They get no kick returns. Or why don't you go place it right at the 2, and then we'll smother it at the 18. So I'm going with Harrison Butker, the yellow jacket from Georgia Tech, with my 3rd pick.
I like that pick. He was on my board as well for kicker. It's tough with like the current players because you think to yourself, well, there's been 60 years of Chiefs history. Right. I mean, should I take the guy that's on the team right now? But I think you're right. Harrison Butker's off to an incredible start in his career and has a chance to be one of the best kickers in Chiefs history when it's all said and done. So you're getting him when the going is hot here. You're getting him while he is young.
And since I'm getting to pick last in all these, did I win in the playoffs? Is that on my finish?
Yeah, I'm rebuilding.
All right, okay.
Yeah,
right.
You won it all last year.
Thanks, man. I just feel great about it.
So I'm going to keep the special teams train rolling here. I'm going to go punter and pick up our guy, Dustin Colquitt. Of course, 238 games played in Chiefs history, most in franchise lore. Second most punts inside the 20 in NFL history with 470. Only Jeff Fiegels had more in NFL history. And also just a leader who helped create the culture the Chiefs now enjoy. He's one of those guys that was there in 2013 and helped really turn the page when Coach Reid got here with the locker room. So Colquitt, he's going to be my punter and also a guy in the locker room helping establish a culture.
Way to take some of my all-time favorites. You take Colquitt, you take Dawson. But now you force my hand because you could block me from another punter there, although that's going to leave you at backup quarterback. You might be in a bit of a pickle here. So I'm going to go punter. You forced me into it, but how can I go wrong with Gerald Wilson, one of the greatest punters of all time? Super Bowl IV champion punter, Super Bowl I Thunderfoot. When you look, he was ahead of his time too. A 43 gross, 39 net. In the playoffs, even better. His net at 41. If you go back and look at it, the win against the Raiders in the AFL championship game, he would flip the field and change it way before even people talked about it. So with my 4th pick in episode 1, Sonny Weaver Jr. is going to take Gerald Wilson, Thunderfoot, as his punter.
See, that's what I teased when we first opened this up, is you have Gerald Wilson, who's the Chiefs punter for like 15 years, and then Dustin Colquitt is the Chiefs punter for like 15 years. So Tommy Townsend is our punter for the next 15 years.
Don't overlook Louis Aguiar here.
Yeah. Louis
Aguiar would be, he's one of those that lasted a while, and plus he had the fake punt pass to Kevin Lockett at Seattle, which is one of the greatest players of all time. Greatest players of all time. Go look it up. You'll see why.
Yeah, there you go. A lot of punting history here in Kansas City with some great punters. Okay, final pick now. If my math is correct. Your team is done for today, right?
No, I got one more pick.
You have one more pick. Okay.
Yeah.
And my final pick here, head coach. I'm currently coachless.
Because you picked first.
That's right.
Like AB. Okay.
That's right. I'm just over anxious. Okay, so my head coach.
Let me call the commissioner.
My head coach is going to be Hank Stram. I can't really go wrong with Hank Stram. You think about the situation my team is going to be dealing with here is we're building from the ground up. We're starting from scratch. Well, that's what Hank Stram helped do with the Dallas Texans in 1960. And of course, in Kansas City, he built the Chiefs into what they are, which was one of the greatest teams of all time for that decade in the 60s. Think of the innovations that Hank Stram helped create. Another thing I didn't really know about until I started researching him: the moving pocket, 2 tight end formations, and the stacked defense. All things that he helped create. He didn't have an offensive, defensive, or special teams coordinator. He basically did everything himself. So Hank Stram wasn't just really good at managing things and being innovative. He also was successful at it with his team on the field, which, as we'll talk about in these further episodes, a lot of Hall of Famers on those 60s Chiefs teams. But Hank Stram, he'll be my head coach. And also, I'm thinking of this from a brand perspective, because we're more than just a football team, right? We're a business and an operation. He was the first coach to ever wear a mic on the field. I mean, you always see those clips by NFL films, him saying like 65 toss power trap and matriculate the ball down the field, boys. Those kind of things are good for publicity in our brand. So Hank Stram's the total package in my mind.
Motions and shifts. Same thing with Andy Reid. Motions and shifts. He was the first to really screw up defenses with it. But excellent pick, and you need a head coach of those guys. But I've got my head coach in Andy Reid, and I need a backup quarterback because if Montana goes down, like he did in the AFC Championship game of 1993, I got a problem. But I've got a problem no more because I'm going to pick my backup quarterback as Alex Smith. Who's better there to be like a second offensive coordinator? Put the minds of Andy Reid and Alex Smith together with Warren Moon in that room. How good that room is going to be. Alex Smith, 50 wins, first playoff win for the Chiefs in a generation. He'll be in the Ring of Honor someday. We know how courageous he's been in coming back, but I'm going with Alex Smith. Although you've used all your picks up, I will put this because I had someone sneaky just in case you were going to put, because Warren Moon is on this list. Now, he played what? A half a sandwich with the Chiefs back when he was at the end of his career, 45 years old. But Warren Moon, nonetheless, he had all those Canadian Football League yards and Oilers yards. But I don't have to go there. I'm going to Alex Smith, keeping it right there, keeping it real.
Yeah, I like it. And that wraps up our first round here. If you had Warren Moon, my other guy that I had, just in case you took all my guys at quarterback, was Trent Green. Because Trent Green was like my quarterback growing up. Because the first years of football I was watching were in the early 2000s, and Trent Green, I think, was underappreciated really for what he was doing in his time. You had guys like Peyton Manning back then, Brett Favre, Tom Brady, but Trent Green put up some big numbers. Maybe we can work out a way where they could be signed as like UDFAs at some point, because you need a third quarterback maybe on your practice squad. You can have Warren Moon, I'll have Trent Green.
Well, if you open up the whole UDFA market, that's like 5 episodes just in and of itself. But yeah, good point. He put up the numbers. It was awesome. But yeah, he's there too. So.
Yeah, well, so let's recap here. My team for the first episode here, which is, of course, a part of a larger whole. Quarterbacks, Patrick Mahomes and Lynn Dawson. I'm feeling pretty good about that. My punter is Dustin Colquitt. My kicker is Jan Stenerud. And my head coach is Hank Stram. My head coach is Andy Reid. Changed everything, right? My quarterback's Joe Montana, Pro Football Hall of Fame, and 4 Super Bowl championships. His backup is Alex Smith. Perfect in that role. He'll be great. Then I get Harrison Butker as my kicker. I think he'll be in the Ring of Honor someday. Who knows? Maybe even more. And Thunderfoot, Gerald Wilson, is my punter. I'm ready to go. In our next episode, we're going to do running back, wide receiver, tight end, some skill positions. It's going to get interesting. Oh, yeah. And I'm Sonny Weaver Jr. on Draft Day. What are we doing, people? What are we doing? Are we going to do this, and we're going to do this? Join us for episode 2. Sonny will be back.